The views and opinions expressed on More Peace, Please are those of the host and her guest. The information presented is strictly for general information purposes only. Welcome to More Peace, Please, because sometimes we just have to ask for more peace. Please. On this podcast, my guests and I will discuss different ways to access peace, while also acknowledging how difficult peace can be to obtain and maintain. I am your host, Dominique Davis, also known as Brown and Bendy, trauma-informed yoga teacher and practitioner, weekend musician, and content creator. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. We're all friends here, so kick off your shoes, relax your feet, and let's just see if we can ask for a little more peace. Please. Wow. Here we are. It's getting started. Oh my goodness. Hi. It's so good to see, to hear you. I can't hear you, but you can hear me. It's so good to be here. It's so good to be communicating with you after so long. I have so much to tell you, so much information, and a new project to share with you, but we will get to that shortly. I do ask for grace. This is my first podcast in God knows how long. This is my first time speaking to you guys in so long, but you know what? I am not going to even waste time with the anxieties and the idea of what I think this should be, and instead just let it be what it is, right? Hi, if you do not know me, my name is Dom, also known as Brown and Bendy, and I have a YouTube channel, and now I have a podcast. I am a trauma-informed yoga teacher, and I also have other plans for my career. Again, what we will get into. I will stop putting it off and let's just get into where I have been. You guys have probably been wondering why I haven't come out with content for a while. And there were a lot of different reasons why I stopped. The big two were that I was really starting to become controlled by analytics and trying to understand how to make my channel and my content more successful numbers wise, but at the same time, feeling very disconnected from the subject matter. At that time, I was realizing that I believe that a person's faith is a very private, intimate thing. And at the same time, I was making very public videos about my faith and my walk and my journey. And that really put a wrench in my plans, if you will. And I was feeling called to stop creating content because it just started to feel very disingenuous. So I stepped away for that reason. And another reason was I wasn't really feeling connected to the human experience. When I had stopped making content, I was also doing private coaching and working with individuals one-on-one. And the more people that I worked with, the less I felt at peace setting a camera up and making reels and making YouTube videos and blogs. Not because I think that there's anything wrong with either of those things, but the average person has a different experience than a content creator. And the more that I leaned into creating content, the less I felt like I could relate to the people that I was doing one-on-ones with. And even though I do have plans, spoiler alert, to become a therapist, I don't necessarily believe that the path that I was on as a content creator was right for me in order to truly feel like I was able to authentically connect and speak with people. I'm talking in circles. Yeah, welcome to my podcast. But you get what I'm saying though. I think that we all know the stereotypical content creator that wakes up, looks at analytics, and then plans content. And the content starts to become about what you think people want to see. And when your brain wraps around that, you become so disconnected from the human experience and what you're going through right here, right now, with the people who are actually in your life. My life became very virtual, and I stopped creating content because I wanted to get back in my body and back into my physical reality. For income, I actually started selling insurance. It was a very interesting experience. I got licensed. I worked, oh, I don't know if I don't work for them anymore. I worked for State Farm. Well, not for State Farm. If you know anything about State Farm, they're often run by individual, like they're franchised. So I worked for a State Farm franchise owner for about 7 months. And that was exactly what I needed, because every single day I was speaking to people who were in survival mode. I went into it thinking that I was going to learn about a product that every person needs. And, I thought I would be interacting with my community. And yes, I was. But what I learned is that the majority of my community is in survival mode. A lot of times I wasn't talking to people to sell them insurance that they needed. I was talking to people who were like 2, 3 months behind on their home insurance and their car insurance, which are things that, if you're behind on that, you're most likely struggling in other financial areas of your life. So every single day I was really talking to people who were deeply in survival mode. And it reawakened my understanding of what the human experience is often like for a lot of people. And I was able to reconnect to the gift that I've been blessed with. Um, Not so much my personal gifts of communication and being able to project positivity, because I do believe that those are my personal gifts. But I do also believe that 10 years ago, when I started Brown and Bendy, I had a huge wake up call. I don't know how long of you have been rolling with me for that long, but I was diagnosed with MS. My mom has MS. So it was a disease that I've seen my whole life. And then I was diagnosed. And when I was in the hospital, God spoke to me very clearly, and God told me what I needed to do in order to heal my body. And that's a whole nother podcast. Okay. But hearing from God so clearly is what I want to speak to. And that was one of my first experiences, hearing God and feeling God and knowing that there is a God, because there's a difference between, what your psyche creates and your creator. So experiencing that was the beginning of, okay, there has to be more to this life that I'm living. And that's when I learned the power of positive thinking, got really into the law of attraction, made all those videos. I was very, very obsessed with the alchemy that is created when you learn to change your thoughts, and how you learn that God is real and that there are good, beautiful things to experience. And that can be true even if you've never experienced it before. Learning all that was a gift, because I learned it young. I learned that at age 22 or 23. And now, 10 years later, I'm able to say that I have 10 years of experience of actively seeking that good, loving feeling. And now, or not now, but when I was working in insurance, it was a wake up call to, some people never get that. Some people never have that experience where they get to realize that there is more to life than these physical daily struggles that we are experiencing every day. And, working in insurance, it humbled me, it grounded me, it broke exactly what I was trying to break, which was, it's like a content creator curse where you just become so disconnected from the average human experience, and you're kind of in la la land, because it's a survival thing, because you got to stay in la la land in order to keep producing content and make your money, so I was able to break that, get back into the human experience, and remember why I started Brown and Bendy in the first place. I started Brown and Bendy because I needed to save my life. I needed to explain to myself that I am worthy of experiencing the love that was meant for me without having to have all of the financial material things. I'm worthy of it before all the financial material things manifest themselves. I'm worthy of the goodness of life. I'm worthy of it before that. That's the whole reason why I started Brown and Bendy. At the end of my insurance journey ended itself. I lost one of the most important people in my life. My godmother, she passed away at the end of December. And at that time, I was already starting to feel a little bit burnt out from the whole insurance thing. It's not for the weak. Selling insurance is it's difficult. It's a very difficult landscape. Um, so I was already beginning to feel burnt out. And my godmother, she died out of nowhere. And yeah, it happened very quickly. I found out that she, trigger warning if you or have recently experienced a death in the family, but I'll keep this brief. I'll speak about how it happened for about a minute or maybe two, but I found out that she had an aneurysm on a Friday after going for a walk, and she passed away that Monday. So it happened all over the course of 3 days. And I did not have my biological father in my life. As I said before, my mom has MS. She is disabled. So my godparents, they stepped in so often, and they were a big part of making sure I survived childhood. So losing my godmom so quickly, it rocked me, and it made me realize that I can't really mess around with the insurance thing for too much longer, because life is not promised to anyone. I thought my godmom was going to outlive everyone. I thought that she was so healthy and she was so vibrant, and it was just such a shock. It was such a shock. And losing her just made me realize it's promised to no one. And, if I'm going to do insurance, I got to love insurance. And that I did not. That I did not. So, my godmother and all of the women in my family are very passionate about education. And I've known for a while that I wanted to go back to school, but just because of insecurities, I put it off. But when my godmother died, I realized that it's time. It's time for me to go back to school. It's time for me to get my master's. I am currently applying to different master's programs. I do have a first choice. I would like to get my master's in social work because I do want to provide talk therapy, but I want a program that is very aware of the social disparities, and I would like the content that I consume to be grounded in the reality, like, of the average marginalized person's experience. Psychology has its place, and I think that it is so, so valuable. But where my heart is, I mean, the name of my brand is Brown and Bendy. Where my heart is working with individuals who are in the socioeconomical trenches. So that's the path that I'll be taking, God willing. That being said, I am currently waiting to hear from my first choice. I was hoping to record this episode as an announcement, but that wasn't God's will, but that was what I was hoping for. So I'm still waiting. I'm not in school yet, but you guys will know when I am, because I will be screaming it from the rooftops. And, if this is not the year, then I will continue to apply. I will continue to work towards it, because that's my ultimate goal. That's my ultimate intention. Okay, so what is More Peace, Please? What am I listening to? What is this podcast? Okay, so More Peace, Please is going to be a project that explores how different people find peace in their lives. I'm going to talk to people from different backgrounds and better understand what they do independently to cultivate the feeling of peace and what peace actually means to them. We're going to have episodes with guests, and then some episodes will just be me yapping. So if you like to hear me yap, don't worry, here I am for you. And I will be shifting my individual episodes to more philosophy and the spiritual side of things, not necessarily the spiritual, because like I said earlier, my spiritual journey is beginning to become very private. But I will be speaking to you guys about the philosophy of peace. I guess that's a better way to put it. So there will be videos like my older content. You guys have been telling me for years that you wish I had a podcast. So I am heeding all of that. Um, and then other episodes will, like I said, be with guests. But I got so tired of just hearing myself talk. That's another thing about being a content creator is that golly, you are you are filming yourself and then you're like editing your face. And then it became years of just me looking at myself and listening to myself. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I am over me, you know? So that's another reason why I was just like, I have to have guests on this podcast because even though I know that I have a valuable perspective and, I have a cool way of seeing things, I honor all that and I'm grateful for that. But I also believe that tons of other people have amazing perspectives, and I want to talk to them and bring that to you. It's funny because I came up with the concept for More Peace, Please last August when we were like, I think that Kamala had just decided that she was going to enter the race, and there was a lot of crazy energy around that. And I was like, my nervous system is constantly disrupted. Little did I know what I would be experiencing in the future. But at that time, last August, I was like, we need more peace. What can I do to bring more peace into the world? And at that point, I think I was like, I hadn't made a video in 6 or 7 months. And I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time to start a podcast. And this podcast is my intention behind it will be to create more peace in the world. So now, 6 or 7 or 8 months later, I don't know, I can't count, but however longer later, I'm realizing that it's needed even more now. We need more peace now because the world is kind of on fire, and I'm not attempting to be an alarmist because I also believe that the world's always been on fire, figuratively, literally, however you want to look at it. But I think that right now the flames are visible. And when the flames are visible, it's a lot harder to run away from the fact that everything's on fire. You have to face it. And I think a lot of us, we're having a little bit of trouble balancing our everyday lives while also balancing all these little fires that we're having to put out in our personal lives and in our communities. So that's the point. That's the point of More Peace, Please. So, welcome to my podcast. I cringe when I think about all of the times I acted on impulse instead of pausing, breathing, and practicing mindfulness. But what can I say? I was young and I didn't have the tools that I have now. If you're ready to strengthen your mindfulness practice and build a solid foundation within yourself, I'd love to support you. Visit brownandbendy.com/trauma-informed coaching to learn more about working one-on-one with me. Together, we'll unlearn the habits that no longer serve you and replace them with sustainable practices that support your growth. That's brownandbendy.com/trauma-informed coaching. Disclaimer: Dominique Davis is a trauma-informed yoga teacher, not a licensed therapist. What is happening with Brown and Bendy? Okay, so you guys know how I would often say I'm Brown and Bendy because I'm brown and I'm bendy. Yeah. I would like to transition Brown and Bendy into being a nonprofit. This will take time. And this will also take me having a master's and clinical hours. That's the only way I'm gonna be able to do this. But in my fantasy, Brown and Bendy will become a nonprofit that allows me to give continuing education to yoga teachers of color to get them trauma informed so that I can send other little Brown and Bendies into the community to provide trauma informed yoga to the people who need it most. Because I love teaching in a yoga studio. I am currently teaching in a yoga studio, but yoga is needed outside of the studio. If you are a yoga practitioner, you understand that the yoga is not the asana. Yoga is not the poses. Yoga is the lifestyle. It is a lifestyle of nonviolence and of service and of disconnecting from the world and reconnecting to the divine, my Heavenly Father, for me. So all of that being said, I want to make little brown and bendies to send into the world to help people who are currently not functioning due to their trauma reconnect to their bodies and understand that the only way to elevate past the traumatic incident is by communicating to your body that the incident is over. And that is not just an intellectual process, that is a somatic process that the body has to understand. And a lot of people cannot afford therapy or yoga classes in order to have that experience. So, yes, less dogma, less religion, less rules, and more practicality. Because if you do not feel safe, if you do not feel connected to your present moment, the rules don't matter. You're only following the rules out of fear. You're not following the rules because you truly believe in the value and the point of the rules. You're just doing it for seeking more safety through approval and all that. So, yeah, less dogma, more practicality. That's where Brown and Bendy is going. The last thing I will say is that if you're interested in all of this, something that we will be referring to quite often is a PDF that I have created called Climbing Back Up to the Watchtower, which is going to educate you on identifying the part of your brain that we will call the fire alarm that's always telling you that something is on fire, and learning how to climb back up to the part of your brain that we will then reference as the watchtower, which is the part of our mind that is observing. It's the logical part of our mind that tells our body that we are in a safe enough environment to just observe. We don't have to run around and throw water on things. We can just be right here. So that PDF is going to be called Climbing Back Up to the Watchtower. You can find it on my Substack. So it'll be in the description of this YouTube video, as well as in the description of the show notes of this podcast. I pray to God that this podcast makes it to Apple Podcast, because I am just overwhelmed by the tech side of this, but my God did not make a quitter, so I will persevere. Oh yeah, find me on Substack, substack.com/at Brown and Bendy. When you listen to your thoughts, do you start to feel something like this? Would you rather feel more like this? I can help. Visit brownandbendy.com/meditation to book a private 45-minute meditation session. Your brain will thank you. Okay, so that was just me catching you guys up on where I've been and what I've been doing. So now let's get into the actual podcast episode, where it is my intention to encourage you and to fill your cup to help you make it through today, tomorrow, this week, this month. Give you some peace, if you will. My year away taught me how easy it is to hide in echo chambers. When you live online, the algorithms will encourage you to speak to people and gravitate towards people who believe the same thing that you do. And eventually you stop being able to relate to the experiences of others, because your brain now believes that you believe what you believe and everyone in your life believes what you believe. So you guys are right. And it can be so difficult to empathize and sympathize with others when you are in that mindset. And insurance put me back into the real world. It reminded me that there are so many people who could not care less about their own peace. And I never really felt out of alignment when I was working in insurance, because I knew that God had put me there for a very specific reason. I just didn't know what it was yet. And losing my godmother, it was just such a visceral reminder of how a person can be here laughing one day and smiling, and then they could be gone the next. What I learned was that when we live in, when we consistently are telling ourselves that things are bad and that I just have to make do in this life where everything is so bad. And that's the majority of people that I was interacting with when I worked in insurance, and not just customers, but also coworkers. There was a lot of, this is just how life is. I have to make do with it. It's not going to get any better. And when you live in that way and you start to believe that that's how things are, life comes at you quick, and life will go by very quickly. And after my godmother passed away, I realized that I'm not going to help these people by working in insurance. Working with so many people who were stuck in survival reminded me how we become numb to anything that feels good. We don't believe it, we don't trust it when we are stuck in those states of survival. And I feel so blessed to have been reminded of how God rescued me from that so young. But that's not a gift that I just take and say thank you for. It's a gift that I take and I digest and then go out and serve. I don't just take it and say, cool. I take it and figure out, okay, how can I take this gift and multiply it into the hearts of other people? The only way to show gratitude would be to continue teaching others that they are not trapped, and that your freedom, it is a birthright. Working a 9 to 5 does not automatically mean that a person is enslaved. So let me be very clear about that. Just because that was not the path for me, I am not saying that anyone who is working a traditional 9 to 5 job is not free. I think it more so comes down to your daily experience and the feeling you get in your daily experience. Is it a feeling of being trapped and being made to feel small? Or is it a feeling of inspiration and opportunities to grow and evolve into a higher version of yourself? What are the experiences that you're having every day telling you about your environment? Is going to be the environment that ultimately determines whether you are in a state of freedom or whether you are trapped. When I left my insurance job, I had to ask myself, what is my purpose? What am I doing? I had a job. I quit my job. What am I doing? And I really had to be honest with myself about what I was put here for. I knew that the people in my life needed me. I knew that I was not serving in the way that I wanted to serve. And this isn't even talking about helping the world. This isn't even talking about helping even my community. This was literally me talking about helping the immediate people in my life. So when it comes to purpose, I think that being able to honestly ask yourself, how am I showing up for my loved ones? A big part of me stepping away from insurance was also me being honest with myself about my mother's needs. My mother, as I mentioned multiple times, is disabled, and my children's needs, with both parents working 9 to 5. A lot of my kids' needs were, and I'll say emotional needs, I won't say their physical needs, but a lot of my children's emotional needs were being disregarded because there just was not time, and that killed me. um and then my marriage, was I fully happy with how much time I was putting into my marriage? So that was all immediate. And when it comes to purpose, it's so important to understand that if we're not feeding our relationships, nurturing our relationships with the people who are are most precious to us, no purpose can be served. And that's the difference. When I look back at when I was exclusively a content creator, I can still say that I was neglecting my relationships with the people who were closest to me because I became so focused on being successful. And what is success if the people you love most, if those relationships are not being cared for? And a lot of times it's a practice of being honest with ourselves and making sure that we are not telling ourselves that the relationships are as good as they're going to get, falling into that mindset of it's as good as it's going to get, it's not going to get any better, because that is often an illusion because it can always get better. The grass is green where you water it. That saying will always be true. It can always get better. So when it comes to our immediate relationships, we can become so obsessed with what is our purpose? What was I put here for? What am I meant to do? And we can get lost looking for all of these opportunities to have these different careers when a lot of times our purpose starts right at home. Our purpose starts right with the people who are closest to us. And then from there, we learn about the ways that we relate to those people and how it's easy for us to help the people that are closest to us. Once the home is nurtured, once the home is nourished, then we can go into our communities. When we go into our communities, that's a chance to better understand, again, the natural God given abilities and gifts that we have that can help the people in our communities. I don't think that we decide our purpose. I believe that we have to experience life and see what traits those experiences manifest. Purpose filled living is service based. I do know that. And we can only serve others if we're honest with ourselves about what we're good at and what we may not naturally excel in. A lot of us think that we're living in our purpose, but we're chasing a superficial idea of success that was actually created by our ego. And the way that we can tell the difference between true purpose based living and the illusion created by our ego is seeing the fruit. And I don't mean the money that's made, I mean the emotional, spiritual fruit. Living for serving and living for loving others will always energize you. Living for the ego based purpose will train you, and you will be burnt out every single time. Living in one's purpose is difficult at first because a lot of us are living in a disguise. The choices that we make are in direct opposition to our true personalities. Some of us, we haven't taken the mask off in so long that we have no idea who we are without it. I can't stop going back to my time in insurance because getting a full-time job after doing Brown and Bendy full-time for 3 or 4 years, it was an opportunity to just start at zero and say, okay, I'm not doing Brown and Bendy anymore. I have this job where I'm being told exactly what to do. So I don't have to make up what to do. I could just do follow directions. And within the following of directions, I was able to see how my own personality, how my own being, who I was, how that naturally arose in different scenarios that that job presented. And that is how I was able to reconnect to who I truly am. A lot of us, we put ourselves in situations that will be easy and that will align with how our ego sees us, because then we can continue to wear that mask and show up in the ways that align with, again, how our ego wants to see us. But when we put ourselves in situations that are outside of that curated environment, then we see what we are truly made of, who what our character is truly capable of. We can only see that when we are uncomfortable. And I'm so grateful for that experience. Over time, as we shift more into serving others through our natural talents and weeding ourselves off the opinions of others, purpose-based living then becomes easy. When you live a life of service, it's if you haven't served before, if you haven't focused on helping your fellow human before, then shifting into a life that's service based. Actually, let me get onto a little side note, a little tangent, if you will. When you live a victim mentality, when you live out a victim mentality, you believe you can't serve others because you have to constantly serve yourself to survive. That's not true. It's what you believe. You believe that if you stop serving yourself for even a second, your life will fall apart. That is a victim mentality. And that is a life that is so separated from spirit, because none of us are holding ourselves up. None of us are doing anything that can stop the world from falling apart. All of our works are just supporting our ego, right? And once we shift into service based living, once we shift into making decisions for others, we start to strengthen our belief system that we do not have to be so obsessed with ourselves in order to survive. If we want to feel that feeling of fulfillment and purpose driven living, it's only going to happen if you shift your mindset to how you can help other people. When you're able to shift your mindset to that, and then you shift into serving others, you realize that there is no end to how much help is needed in this world. There is nothing any of us can do in our lifetimes that will fix the world. Living for service is the ultimate killer of immediate gratification. You no longer seek immediate gratification. You more so seek, what can I do today to help someone today? I know that it may not help them tomorrow, but what can I do to help someone today? And when you know that so many people need help, there are so many people to serve, there's no time for the opinions of others. There's no time to care what people think about you, to care what people think about your life and how you choose to live, how the finances that you present, the people you choose to hang around. There is no time to care about any of that, because so many people do not have the privilege to care about those things. And when you shift into a heart of service, you understand that you want to help people get to a place where they can get out of survival. And that becomes the focus of your life. The privilege of caring about other people's opinions no longer matters, because that is a privilege. Caring what someone thinks about your car or your outfit or your career or your relationships or all of that, that's a privilege, to care about the opinions of others. Because when you do not know where your next meal is going to come from, if you don't know where you're going to sleep tonight and it is below 30 degrees, you don't care about the opinions of others. It's not something that is on your mind. So shifting out of worrying about yourself and how people think about you is, I think it adds years to your life. When you shift out of a me based mindset where your thoughts revolve around you, you're no longer looking at yourself under a microscope. And when you're not looking at yourself under a microscope, your natural abilities, your natural talent, your natural being, it will begin to blossom, because you're not controlling how you blossom. I don't think finding your purpose is about figuring out your career. I think it's about understanding the impact that you want to have on this world and the love that you want to leave behind. Allowing ourselves to live a simple existence can be difficult, because society encourages us to live in the opposite way, in a way where we are, again, just so focused on ourselves. Everything society tells us in a mainstream sense says, obsess with yourself so you can get to where you want to be. And that lifestyle is so devoid of true connection, connecting to others, serving the people you love most, and then when you have the space, shifting into serving community, that is peace for me. That is peace for me, and what I truly believe leads to a feeling of peace for all people. Because when we are connecting to our fellow humans, we connect to that ultimate universal truth of oneness, not only trying to find ourselves in proximity to wealth or in proximity to what we believe success is, but making space for our brothers and our sisters and the other humans in our experience who may not be able to project success or wealth, and still loving them and caring for them, and also understanding that a lot of us are one paycheck away from needing someone to share a meal with us, from needing somewhere to stay. Okay. So that is peace for me. And then when it comes to purpose, purpose then blossoms because purpose is the natural outcome of love-based action. So yeah, that's all I have to say about purpose today. I do hope that this podcast was able to help you find a little bit of peace, and do not ever hesitate to close your eyes, take a breath, and just ask for more peace. Please. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of More Peace, Please. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Want to keep up with me? Well, that's a coincidence. I want to keep up with you too, boo. Best way to stay in the know is to follow me on Substack at Brown and Bendy. You can find me under the same handle on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. Until next time, remember to seek more peace, please. This podcast was produced by Brown and Bendy Wellness. The title track, Aesthetic, was written and produced by the artist Scandinavians.